and welcome to Roadworthy. In this episode, we have an insane amount of work in front of us, and we need to put this old Celica back together. Let's go. This looks really good. This seems to be pretty darn good. For you who remember how the hood was eventually, before we started, it was just totally ruined. This is just amazing. Is this a little bug? Yeah, of course. We need one bug for each time we go in here and paint. But from a paint job, where this is done in my garage, with just, basic tools, as all the YouTubers say, I am really happy about this. Also went to town, fitted some JBL speakers and some MTX audio 8-inch active sub. I need to clean up the wiring a bit, but that is taken into account and all lengths are done the way they should. Yeah. Really cool. with the front wings or fenders on, this is starting to look more and more like a car. So this has been one of the quicker jobs to get the fenders on, but there's gonna be a lot of alignment later on when I get the hood and the front back on. Everything's gonna be realigned. As you see, the shot lines are far from perfect, but as you know, this car's been crashed, so everything's not gonna line up as it should. We have a few shot lines that show that, and I don't mind though, because this tells the story of this car. This is just the latest iteration or version, if you want to call it that, of this chassis and this car. And I would love to have seen some pictures of it when it did rallying, and maybe even when it was on the roof, when it was crashed, compared to what it is now. But I think it just adds to the character, and this is still such a cool car. So now I'm gonna be setting all this stuff up where it needs to be, and then I'm gonna be starting on putting on the front. Nearly there. Alright guys, last day of paint, hopefully. Garage has once more been transformed into this horrible, low budget, very high dust paint environment, but it is what it is, and with a little bit of water on the floor and cleaning, I get decent results, I think. The mirrors have been hung, sanded down, ready to receive some color. Everything needs to be wiped off about 20 times. I'll do that later on. Also these guys for the sills. These are aluminum and original and really hard to sand down. So I've done my best, and they have some spray paint gray on them now, which isn't really done that well. So it's gonna show, but hey, just to get them covered, then we can always redo them if it's really bad. The front pieces for underneath the headlights and the over fenders, which is the last thing that we need to complete the car, which is sitting here. So far this is very good, and I'm very happy with the result. So let's get the last things degreased, sand down the last pieces, and get it in the makeshift booth. All right. The first batch is already inside and getting painted. This is going to be 2 different colors. So at first I'll start with everything that needs to be painted gray. When that has had, I think 2 coats of color will do, because the primer is also gray, so it covers like on the first layer, but 2 coats of color on the gray, and it has time to flash off. I'm gonna take all that outside, then I'm gonna take all the stuff that's gonna be painted black, put 2 or 3 coats of color on all of this, and then when that have flashed off for the 3rd time, I will take the gray stuff inside and I will clear it all at the same time, so I don't get cross-contamination, get gray on the black or black in the gray, to keep it as sharp and as separate as possible. So that is hopefully what I'm going to be spending the next hour or so on, getting all these layers of color down, and then some clear. And then that should conclude the paint job on the Celica. Alright, next day, dry time is over. All these parts had the day and the night to dry. They look very shiny. I did go a little bit heavy on the clear. Doesn't matter. You can do that when you have pieces laying down like this. You can go a little bit heavier than you probably should. And this is gonna collect a lot of water. It's just gonna pool here in the front when this is mounted, so I just thought that would be some better protection. Also, over fenders looking pretty good. Very shiny. Just one single clear run, as you can see here. I don't know if I can catch the light. There you go. Well, pretty happy with them. I'm just gonna let them sit here for a day or two, just to cure all the way up before putting them on the car. The last things I got painted was the mirrors. They were actually pretty good, but I just wanted them to match the shade of black on the over fenders, so they just got hit with the black and clear, and they are very shiny. So very happy with that. That being done, it is really just down to the last few things before we get to drive this. And the only thing that we need out here front is hose, hydraulic clutch hose from the slave cylinder down there and onto the main cylinder there. So this is a new unit we put in there because the old one was leaking. So let's just do a line that will run over here and over to this hose. I'm just gonna have a rummage around the shop, see if I can find a hose also, because this one is looking a bit worse for wear. But otherwise, let's just get something on there. This piece goes in here. And that is basically the clutch line done with the new hose connected and down to the clutch slave. So now all there is for me to do is to fill the reservoir with some .4 fluid, and then I think it is on to the brakes. The brake calipers were redone, painted, and have been sitting on the shelf ready to be put on the car. That is why we didn't put brake fluid in there, or because we have no calipers on the front. The rears were also rebuilt, so they should be fine, but the entire system is dry and needs to be bled. That's always a pig when it's totally dry system. So let's get the front calipers back together and put them on. See if we can get these guys in here. That's it. Now, last thing before bleeding them are, of course, to add some new brake fluid, and I'm going to do that today, and then tomorrow I'm going to bleed them, because then it had a chance to gravity drain, and I find on dry systems like this, where lines and brakes and stuff like that has been replaced, that is far the best method, because it's very hard to draw fluid through a system full of air. So and would you look at that? Front is on and it's looking amazing. I think that the gaps, all the gaps here and all the shot lines are as good as I'm gonna get them with these fiberglass front wings fenders, because they are not 100%, and you can spend a lot of time on getting them set just right, but it'll just creep up everywhere else. But this is not the worst I've seen, but metal front fenders would be preferred. There's a little bit more of a gap over here, but I think it's more like the height difference that does it. Otherwise, this is okay. For what this car is, it's okay. So the wheels back on with the new brakes. That looks pretty awesome in there, together with the coilovers. I don't know if you can see them, but brakes and the coils. So now the next thing, I think before doing anything else, I like to have this room to work with getting the Fender wing mounted mirrors on. So they are gonna be next. Yep, that should do it. And that just makes it so much cooler. Now to one of the parts that I have been wanting to put on this car since I got it, and that's the over fenders. I think I'm going to start off with the rears and then work my way to the front. Time for the last piece of the puzzle. It's the back box, which I made just before I tore the car apart. I anticipate some problems with this, because this was made with a lot of twisty bends and curves and all kinds of stuff to clear the rear axle on top. Now that the rear axle is sitting so high, due to the car being so low, I have a feeling this won't fit. So we might cut it at the back box and at the flange, and then we might go under the rear axle. But hey, let's see. If it clears, we'll run it. If not, we'll just cut it. I don't really see how this is possible. So yeah. And I spent so much time on getting this just right. I spent so much time on doing all the pie cuts and getting especially this angle up here, getting all that fine and dandy to clear the rear axle. But hey, I'll just cut it, bolt on the flange to the exhaust, put up the back box where I want it, and then we'll just run a straight piece of pipe, tack that into place, take it all off, glue it back together, and be done with it. So these things being cut, let's go put them on the car, make sure everything has the right height, and then we start cutting some pipe. Cat. Ran out of daylight yesterday, so just to recap, this is where we're at. Rear muffler held on by magic mostly. So what we did was we made the piece that goes from here down towards this one, and I didn't really want to do it like in one piece, but the angle of the cut is not greater than any of the pie cuts that I had before when it went over the rear axle, so it's not gonna matter. It is just a matter of opinion and aesthetics. That's a hard word. Of looks. But I've decided on just making one piece. This is gonna be covered by the wheel, and from behind it's still gonna look great. So the pipe is cut. Now I'm gonna put it on here and just tag it 2 or 3 places on each end. Then we're gonna take the piece and get it in fully welded with some purge gas, and then fit it on the car. Alright, let's see if this thing fits. Alright, let's get this thing back to life. Okay, just finished bleeding the brake and the clutch. Now for the first time while I had this car, not only will it brake properly in the front, but it will brake in the back. It never did that because the slave cylinders here in the back, they were totally shot, didn't work. So we have stopping power in the back. That's gonna be strange to see how it drives. Next thing is I just did a little of the overspray, painted a lot of stuff flat black back here, as I said, not to spoil these lines with having the tank and the wheel well sticking out underneath. So a lot of touch-off jobs, the last few things. Then I'm gonna put the wheels back on. First, nuts and bolt check, as I talked about, because nothing has been tightened. So I'm just gonna go over everything that I think is important. So yeah, a lot of things. And front splitter, all this stuff was just left hanging when we did the front, because I wanted to make sure that everything was set in the right way. Now we can do all these bolts up, tighten everything down. Yeah. And from there, just teeny weeny last few bits of interior. This one is gonna be a whole other episode with all this stuff down here. Let's not worry about that now. Yeah, nuts and bolts check, wheels on, And let's see this thing move under its own power for the first time in, I think it's 11 months. Almost a full year. But hot dang, for 1 year project, I think I have done pretty good with the shape this thing was in and how it ended up. I am well satisfied with this. So, bolts now, bolts everywhere. This one's also loose. Lots of bolts. Then wheels, then driving. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe. In the next episode, we're going to be putting the wheels on the car, setting the height, and we might even go for a drive. See you on the next one.